Ephesians 6:12-13 states, "For our struggles are not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil that in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on your full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your guard, and after you have done everything, to stand." What is a Christian walk? What exactly does it consist of? Are you on a Christian walk if you have not found God yet? Well, let's discuss that question. Even though my story actually begins back in 1999, I'm going to fast forward a bit to 2013. After 14 years of living a life my way, I found myself looking in a courtroom at a judge who were turning out to deny me any bail and place my rear into the Ottawa Carleton Detention Centre, also known as OCDC. In total, I would spend 32 months in that location. So, where does the search for God come in? What does it have to do with me, who seem to be always doing things my way and doing what I think should be done? Why would I want to give all of that power and control? Question is quite simple. You see, my dad and I almost joined at the hip. We did renovations together. We worked on vehicles. We went to the store together. We even watched a good John Wayne or Clint Eastwood movie together. When traveling, basically the only singer that we would listen to was Stompin' Tom Connors. My father was diagnosed with leukemia in 2007 and was doing quite well over the years. He went up and down as he was being tired, but seemed to be able to keep working as a superintendent of an apartment building for those whole 6 years. On September 6, 2013, I was arrested in Ottawa, and as I said, I spent 32 months in OCDC waiting to see what my fate would be. Over those 32 months, I had attempted to get bail 4 times. The first one was in December 4th, 2013. On March 5th, 2014, I was sitting in my cell and working on a letter to a friend of mine. All of a sudden, I was struck with something. I got down on my knees and I started talking to the God I knew had existed. I explained to him how I was always self-absorbed in my prayers and always wanted things for myself. Sure, I would pray for anybody, but I made sure that there was a benefit there for me somehow. Now I was kneeling down and asking God to do something for someone else. This was the first time I was finally asking a prayer for someone else that did not involve me. I asked God to cure my dad and to make him well again. I asked God to remove all the pain and suffering that my dad was dealing with. I wanted God to make Dad to be the same Dad that I knew before. At the end of that prayer, I did something that I found out I should never do. I said, if God was to do this for me, I promise to spend the rest of my life serving Him. I'd do whatever it took to serve Him and to spread His word to all people. This prayer happened at 10:05 p.m. on March 5th, 2014. My dad was taken home at 1:10 a.m. on March 16th. 3 hours and 5 minutes after that prayer. He went home exactly 6 months to the day after I was arrested. I was a very upset and angry person. I cursed God and insisted that God was not a good God. There was no way that God would go and do exactly the opposite to what I had asked him. Could he? At 9:30 on the 6th, I was called out to go and talk to our pastor, Carl Wake. Carl is an awesome man of God that was there for me and took me to a different room and we talked. I met him. I was talking to a guy there by the name of Rob. He's a volunteer with his father with New Life Prison Ministry. He joined in on the talking. Carl looked right at me and asked me to tell him what it is that I had asked God to do. After telling him what I said, they both looked at me and stared. Rob asked me if I had ever heard of the saying, "Be careful what you wish for." You see, I found out that God did exactly what it was that I had asked for. Dad was no longer in pain or suffering. He was in perfect health. In fact, in better shape than he ever was here on earth. Carl looked at me and asked me one question. Since God did exactly what you asked him to do, are you going to honor your part of the prayer? I said I would, and I have. I spent the next 51 months in the system doing exactly as I said. I spent 26 months in OCDC talking to inmates, Carl, as well as volunteers to get as much information in my head and try to figure out what it is that I need to focus on. I was doing Bible studies with Crossroads and New Life Prison Ministry, but began to put an honest interest into what it is I was doing. After a total of 32 months, I had finished my time at OCDC. This started a new chapter in my learning curve. After trial that lasted just under a month, and then a week of deliberation from the jury, and a 5-month wait for sentencing, I ended up going over and entering the federal system. I spent 4 months at Joyful Assessment Unit, and then I spent 20 months at Bath Institution. Bath is known from time to time as the minimum prison with a fence. This is true, except for one thing. It's still a prison. You are still confined with a million limitations. You cannot do what you want when you want anymore. I've had people ask me things that I have seen, what I have seen while I spent my time in all locations. What goes on in these places? I have eaten pretty bad food. I have dealt with nosy people asking a million questions that is none of their business. There's always temperamental people in these places, both inmates as well as guards. I have seen fights between inmates where people have pretty much lost body parts. Too often, I have also seen those who have lost the will to live and have attempted or succeeded in committing suicide. I had to learn to place all that behind me and move on. My time at Bath was jam-packed with doing anything and everything that I could possibly do in order to better my thoughts. You see, I entered the federal system with the mentality that I was actually innocent. I believed that the legal system was out to get me, and that I was there for no other reason than to give the federal or provincial government money. Boy, was I wrong. I entered there with the name Frank Sinatra and I walked out of there with the name Son of God. Even though I promised God on March 5th, 2014 to give my life over to Him, I seem to be holding back. I fear giving over all to obey a whole new set of rules. Up to this point, I gave Him what was convenient for me to give up. I thought that I could still do a lot of the things on my own power. While I was in Bath, I had to take a program that was mandatory in order to get out of there. I took a program with about 6 or 7 other guys. I heard things and seen things that caused me to take a look at my own life. I was able to see my victims as real victims and not trash that I always thought they were. I was finally able to see the damage that I had done and was able to start moving forward in my being sure to not repeat my actions again. I was bound to end up in society and be good. I made a promise to a lot of people that I would never go back to prison. One of those people I promised was my dad. In that program, I did an exercise known as the ripple effect. I had to draw a bullseye and begin placing myself in the middle. The second ring was the people closest to me, and then further and further out, the least and least close to me. After that assignment was done, I was to take one person from that assignment and build a ripple effect around them. Personally, I inserted the victim. In doing this, I would see that she was the same sort of person in her bullseye. She was possibly a mother, a sister, a daughter, a wife, or girlfriend. I found out that women are human beings just like I am. I started to learn that I am the one to blame. For too long, I was blaming everybody else for my problems and finding every possible way to get out of doing the responsibility of my own actions. It is never the fault of the victim, society, or any other force that you can come up with to blame for anything. After that, I began talking to the chaplain staff more and requesting more and more information that would help me accomplish my new goal in life. My goal was to get into full ministry and be able to help inmates and show them a productive and rewarding future that awaits them. There's one volunteer that came in that I got to talk to every week. The gentleman's name was Terry Harris. He came in representing the Salvation Army and would be there to talk. Even though we were supposed to have an appointment to talk to the volunteers, I would talk to Terry whenever he was sitting there alone. I would walk past his room and he would be in and pop my head in. Sometimes I would talk for 5 minutes, and other times I talked for an hour. This depended on the next person showing up or not. This is where I finally found out what it is I needed to start focusing on in my spiritual quest to serve God. Terry started teaching me the art of prayer. I began working with different chaplains as well as volunteers to get their wisdom. I would ask Bible studies to be sent to send assignments that focused on prayer. I started doing my prayers and adding different inmates as well as guards and other workers to that list. I still pray for all these people. Even to this day, I get people asking me to add other people or themselves to my prayer list. In January of 2018, Terry got me connected with a good man on the outside. This man was going to get me into a group called Dismas. This man's name? Tony Kyer. We began talking back and forth by email, email. By written letter, in the mail, and discussed different things that he does for inmates. We talked briefly about what it is I was seeking and where we could work with these ideas. I got closer and closer to my release date of May 3rd, 2018. I got to the point that I started to question God. I asked him if he would really be there for me when I got out. I wondered if I was good enough to be able to serve God in the way that I felt he wanted me to. Finally, the big day arrived. May 3rd, 2018 came, and I was awake at 3 a.m. I was not going to sleep at all. The guards called me down to admitting and discharge at around 9:30, only to tell me that I was getting out, but I had to go back and wait to be called down again. Really? You had to call me down to tell me this? I was finally released at 11 a.m. I was so blessed to have my mom, brother, and niece there to pick me up. With everything that I've been telling you, my story is actually only beginning right now. You see, no matter what I've seen or learned, if I do not apply it on the outside, it was all a waste of time. I entered society knowing that I would be facing a whackload of temptation for all my pleasures. I knew that there was going to be a great deal of opportunity there to fulfill my quote-unquote need to be satisfied. The difference from before and now is that now I have a powerful man in my corner. Jesus is the leading man. As I was leaving Bath Institution, I had to go into Kingston to see my parole officer. He takes one look at my picture of long hair and my facial hair and thinks that there's no way this guy is going to make it on the outside. I also had to go to Brockville to complete a few more meetings. Among those meetings, God was working on my behalf. He had me meet up with Tony in person. We met and discussed what Dismas was, and was to be, and that he had an aftercare program to help people get back into society. I have been out of prison since May 3rd, 2018. This has been a blessing in more ways than I could ever know. You see, pretty much every day that I have been out has been a day prepared by God himself. Every connection that I have been blessed with has brought me one step closer to achieving my goal of serving God. In August of 2018, I fulfilled a special commitment. I promised my mom that I would do a special memorial for God. I was able to use the Wesleyan Church for the day to do it. I am quite happy that I was able to organize the whole thing. God was there to put every thought and desire in there. He put the right people in my life to make my vision a reality. I was able to do my first public appearance, singing a song, a duet that my girlfriend, now wife, we sang together, A Closer Walk with Thee. In the first 4 to 5 months, I took a maintenance program that took me by order with the parole board. I learned many things. Even though I was trying to fight things and not wanting to be there, I was learning that it is not my plan that is important, but His plan that put me in it. On May 7th, 2018, 4 days after getting out, I met a woman. This woman would turn out to change my entire life. We began officially dating on July 16th, 2018, and have been working on a proper relationship. God is using her to keep me on the level. I have been working on learning what it means to have a Christian relationship and also what it means to treat a woman in a Christian way. I have been able to get out into other programs. I did a 13-week program called Divorce Care. It allowed me to deal with my past divorce, actually past 2 divorces, issues, and to do it in a spiritual level. I also dealt with the emotions caused that I had not dealt with in the passing of my dad in 2014. I also took a program called Emotions That Destroy. This was an 11-week program that allowed me to look at myself and to see what caused my anger. I learned what it is that God has to say and what He wants me to deal with. Within 5 months, I was blessed to have a cleaning job with a restaurant chain in Brockville. I have left there since writing this. I've had one other job, and now the seasons are changing, and I will be probably leaving that job too. But everything happens in God's time. On my birthday of April 14, 2018, I officially became a member of the Brockville Wesleyan Church. I started doing correspondence courses with Kingswood University to work towards getting my ministry papers. I have actually completed the Introduction to the Old Testament, a 4-month program. I have also begun working on learning to play the guitar. Thanks to my wonderful wife, I took the dive in. In October of 2018, I started taking half-hour private lessons once a week. I am getting to the point where I know the different chords and can do a couple of rock or country songs. I now want to take that knowledge and start learning to sing and play God's music. I want to begin singing gospel music as well as modern Christian music. I am in a music group as well. I am singing rock music as well as country music. I know a couple of people that want to start doing Christian music. I know that everything is going to happen in God's time. I have been recently talking to a man from Prison Fellowship Canada. We have been working on what I can do and how I have spent the last 6 years. Helping prisoners talk to the Lord is where I want to be. Where most people try to get into the prisons and the jails to talk to inmates, I want to be on the outside. If everyone is going into the prison in order to talk to inmates, who is there when they get out? God has been talking to me. He's been opening many doors for me to walk through. I took basically 40 years doing things as I wanted to do them. The past 6 years have been a way to make things right. I listened to what the Holy Spirit has been saying to me and actually listening to His Word. I am upset for the fact that I went to jail or prison. No, I am not. I am so very grateful that God put me in a situation where I could wake up and see exactly what it is I was doing and why I was put on this earth. The thing that I am upset is the crimes that I committed to go to these places. There are many ways people talk to God, and God will meet you in any of those places. I'm proof of that. God met me in a stinky, gray, dark cell at 10:05 p.m. Where is it that God might be talking to you? Where is your personal prison cell? Thank you. God bless.